Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for staying with Politics Tonight, digging beyond the headlines. And now to our interview with the guest of the day. I'm now joined by the CEO of Sage Communications and Power Sector Policy Analyst, Bode Fadipe, for discussion on electricity in Nigeria as the national power grid collapses again. Mr. Fadipe, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Good evening, viewers.
Good to you. So, some minutes ago, the president signed the amended Electricity Act bill into law. But before we get to that, let's begin with the assessment of the power sector in Nigeria. How will you assess it?
I didn't get that question. I think we had some network glitch there.
I want us to begin with the assessment of the power sector in Nigeria. How will you assess it?
Well, my assessment of the power sector in Nigeria is that of mixed feelings. Yes, we have recorded some milestones, but they are not sufficient. Those milestones are not sufficient to make us leap for joy as a woman will do when she begets a new baby. Yes, we have privatized. Yes, new institutions have come in. We have learned a lot of things, but unfortunately, the reason for privatization has not been achieved. So, speaking to the question that you have asked in terms of assessment of the power sector, I would say is that of mixed feelings. We have oases of performance in the sector. A company like Mainstream Energy that is the owner of Yola and one or two generating stations are doing well. Eko and Lagos are doing well in terms of distribution. Transmission has no competitor, so you cannot benchmark yourself against yourself, but we cannot say that transmission has been bad. If anything, I think transmission has also improved substantially. Until September last year, transmission was able to keep the grid for over 400 days, and that was a record performance. But within the market, we still have a lot of issues. We have a lot of issues with distribution. We have issues with the grid still going out, still experiences substantial disturbances that bring about grid system collapse, whether partial or full. And those are major issues that are substantial enough to give us a lot of concern and make it impossible for us to say that we have arrived. Sadly enough, we have not arrived. We may have taken off, but we have not arrived at our destination.
Right. So talking about milestone, some minutes ago, the president signed the amended Electricity Act bill into law. How do you react to this latest development?
And I think we must give it to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I'm seeing a lot of willingness on his part to take the bull by the horn and then bring the power sector out of the current state of I don't want to say the state of inertia, that may be too strong, but the state where it is not delivering on its mandate in the required percentage that will crystallize into an economic state of well-being. Because one of the things that you need to give the power sector the kind of leverage that it deserves is the policy, is a legal instrument. So if Mr. President is not delaying in signing it into law, take for instance the Electricity Act 2023. I remember clearly that it was 11 days into his inauguration that he signed that bill into law. And that tells you that he is in a hurry to get a power sector that is functioning. Now, this is about 7 or 8 months down the road. It was inaugurated May 29. So effectively it began to function from that day. But let's take it from June 1st. June to December, that's 7 months. This is just February. So 8 months, he has signed the amended act again into law. So I think we must give it to him that he's actually desirous of getting the power sector to do what it ought to do, and the policy framework, the legal framework, is a fundamental instrument to get to that destination. So for me, he deserves our applause. He deserves our appreciation. He deserves our gratitude for doing what he has done. What is left is for the operators of the system to now use this instrument, this legal instrument, to bring up a power sector that can deliver on its mandate. It's not enough for the president to sign the law. The law itself is a means to an end, not an end on its own. And Mr. President will not be the one to go and fix the light in terms of going from one disco to the other, going from one generating company to the other, going to transmission. He has a minister. That's why he has a minister. That's why the minister has directors. That's why the directors have subordinates. That's why there are agencies under the Ministry of Power that can deliver. And if they are not doing it, Mr. President should fire them. Mr. President has done his own bit. If they are not doing what they are supposed to do, Mr. President should ask them to excuse him. He's in a hurry to succeed. Nobody should slow him down.
Fantastic. Now, let's stay on this for a minute. This new electricity law empowers states to generate their own power. How feasible is this for most states in the country?
Now, at least at the level of ideation, is a possibility. At the level of an idea. Look, for crying out loud, Nigeria is not an isolated nation in the global community. In the global community, you have counties, what you call local government, or even something lower than local government, running their own electricity markets. Not to talk of a state, a subnational. There are three layers of government in this country. There's the federal, there is the state, and there is the local government in this country. So if the next to the federal cannot run an electricity company, then it's going to be unfortunate. So for me, one of the biggest breakthrough in the Electricity Act is the donation of power by the federal government or by the constitution of this country to the state government, allowing them to become full-fledged players in the sector. And I see quite a number of states taking advantage of that legal instrument. Enugu, for instance, as we speak tonight, has set up its own electricity regulatory commission. And that's a major traction for them. I know that one or two others, or your state, I think it was yesterday I was reading about that story in the media where the reporter said Governor Seyi Makinde is about signing or has signed into law the Oyo State electricity law. I know that those states is rallying governors around its own axis, Delta, and I think Ekiti and Ondo states working together in close collaboration to bring about a synergy and then raise the power supply situation in that axis. I know that as well that Lagos State had led the pack, but we don't really know what is happening in Lagos State now. I trust that they are not lagging behind. But by and large, quite a number of states are taking advantage of that law to improve. Enugu, for instance, is doing so much that they are even allowing more than one disco in a senatorial district. So that if disco A is not performing, as we have in just Plateau State, disco B will be available for anybody who wants to switch allegiance or who wants to port, as we have it in the telecom industry and things like that. So if we have that robust competitive market, what we are going to be having is a situation where customers now have the opportunity of more than one service provider. And if A is not performing, you can readily move to B. You can take your SIM card and throw into the lagoon and go to another service provider. So for me, it's a major milestone, and I hope that states we take advantage of it, whether in the northwest, in the northeast, in the north central, and the other geopolitical zone, south, southeast, and southwest. I see a lot of traction in the next, say, by the middle of the lifespan of this administration. I think there would have been a major milestone at the risk of being too optimistic.
You can say that again. But Mr. Fadipe, with this new law, how do we protect consumers from being overexploited?
Now, I don't know what you mean by overexploited, and I take and I ask for your forgiveness, really. I do not. I won't pretend to understand what you mean by overexploitation, because the power sector is an industry that requires huge capital. Not just that alone, it's a sector where the capital is a patient one. So when you talk about over exploitation, that immediately begins to throw up a lot of issues in my mind. Are you saying that the tariff is too high? What is your parameter for judging that the tariff is too high? So, because one of the ways by which you can say that the customer is being exploited is to say that the tariff is more than the service. But again, your argument or your submission can also be interrogated from another perspective. And that means that we can begin to ask, is what the customer paying now commensurate to the service is receiving? I mean, I know that out there, a lot of customers are being requested to buy their transformers, to buy feeder pillars, to provide money to convey those who are going to clear faults, buy poles, buy conductors. A lot of customers pay for the extension of lines to their homes. A lot of communities suffer that kind of situation. If that is your interpretation of exploitation, then I agree with you completely. However, if you're coming from the perspective of tariff, then the question is, we may not be correct to say that the customer is exploited. I know why people are looking at it from this perspective. The economy is very tight. People are going through very tough times. And then the little money that they are paying, they are not getting service for it. Yes, I agree that in itself is a major issue for concern. Otherwise, as things are now, customers are even, at least from empirical data, customers are not paying as much as they ought to pay if electricity were to be available in the quantum. For instance, the subsidy for this year is likely to run into about 3 billion. So we have escaped, we seem to have escaped from petrol subsidy, and we are jumping into electricity subsidy. There is no doubt about the fact that people will ask the question, if you remove subsidy from electricity, then what is the responsibility of government? But again, that's a different conversation that I don't want to go into tonight.
All right.
However, it's very, very important to ask whether government wants to continue to adopt this Santa syndrome. I mean, that's one issue that government needs to decide.
All right, Mr. Fadipe, let's take a break. And when we come back, we will continue this conversation. This is Politics Tonight, everyone. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.